I've been looking for a hero. A hero is the person who does the thing you hope you would do in the same situation. A hero is the person who jumps in front of or runs after. The person who won't stop until, who dedicates years to, who never complains about. I've been looking for my one of them. This is my dad. He is very clear about what a hero isn't. For him, a hero is not some bloody adventurer who disappears around the world with only a pair of roller skates and a trust fund. And then I find him shouting at the television. So, you skated around the world, who gives a shit? Why do I have to watch you on Newsnight? What good have you ever done for mankind? Ooh, this is Gertrude Airedale. She was the first woman to swim across the English Channel at the age of 19 in 1926. And I got very excited when I found out about her, because she was a German immigrant to the United States, the same way my grandma was to here. And she was a woman and she was single-minded. And with that surname, I decided that she must be Jewish. She was my perfect hero. But the Jews don't traditionally have a good relationship with water. When I saw that the yachtsman Tony Bullimore was on the Wikipedia list of world-famous Jews, that's when I realised that Wikipedia isn't a very reliable resource. So last time we were going to have to do a big swim, we just got a man in to divide the waves so we wouldn't have to get all salty. Well, this is Gertrude. She didn't have a very good sort of hero start because she was in fact afraid of water. But her father made her immerse her face in a bowl of water until that fear went away. To make her swim, he tied a rope around her and threw her into the local river, and she learned very quickly after that. She became very good, winning medals at the Olympics. Her father was a butcher, and together they pooled their skills. She brought her swimming talent, he brought his knowledge of fats. And so they developed a system for her to cross the channel. To coat her skin against the cold and the salt, they used olive oil and then lanolin, then Vaseline and then lard. It took 3 hours to remove with a scrubbing brush and gasoline. She was quite superstitious, Gertrude. She took to writing the word courage on the water that she would drink during practice, as she believed it would imbue it with this quality and she would be filled with strength from the inside out. This was a strange foreshadowing of the work of a Japanese scientist called Dr. Emoto Masamuro, and he believed that you can change the molecular construction. It doesn't matter. This is the route that swimmers take. What they do is they swim from Cap Gris-Nez in France to Kingsdown in Kent. It is 20 miles long, but it can be the same again because of the Atlantic tides. Gertrude, she would have had to cope with the tides, with extreme cold, with Japanese men-of-war jellyfish, and even with sharks. Oh, and you have to stay hydrated when you swim. But once you're in the water, you can't be touched by anyone, otherwise you get disqualified. So her team threw her flasks of beef tea because isotonic sports drinks hadn't yet been invented. But most of them sank because of all the kind of grump on her hands, or the fat. So she set off at 7 in the morning on the 6th of August 1926 from France, hit terrible weather but continued, and arrived in England 14.5 hours later, setting a world record. She was greeted as a hero back in the United States with the first ever ticker tape parade in New York City. It was huge. I mean, massive, huge. 2 million people came out to celebrate one individual's act of success. And it was an act that was, in a way, a little bit selfish. And I started to wonder if you had to be a little bit selfish to be a hero. My mum is the least selfish person I can think of. In fact, I don't think she's ever done anything just for herself. This is my ex. This shows that I'm quite selfish because he is ginger and not very good in the sun, but I used to make us go on holiday to hot places. I wouldn't see him all week because I'd be on the beach and he'd be hiding under a rock. That relationship didn't work out. I decided it was time to force my mum to do something selfish. I was going to make her train to swim across the channel. I figured that she'd done it loads of times with me when I was growing up, albeit in a Volvo. And what we did, my father used to make these sandwiches in the morning and we'd eat them on the way down to Dover. And then on the ferry, my mum and my grandma would throw them up while my brother was eating chicken and chips in the P&O cafe. Every year. So we started the training slowly and I made my mum drink the water with courage on it. And I said, how are you feeling? And she said, well, actually, I just feel full of doubt and fear and I'm depressed and a tiny bit excited. So I wrote those words on the glass of water, and after that, that training system really started working. I said, if you're going to be a hero, you've got to develop a hero's attitude. You've got to not care what people think. And she said, well, I do care, and if the Ealing United Synagogue Ladies Guild find out that I have swum across the channel covered in pig lard, I will be mortified. So we compromised and we used Rakusan's tone or kosher lingerie. The other thing is that my mum can't swim and she's quite risk averse. She doesn't like the feeling of taking her feet off the bottom. She feels as though she'll be swept away into oblivion. I think she sometimes feels like that on land as well. This is the local Ealing Learn to Swim group who really embraced her. Then she said, was Gertrude actually Jewish? Because I've been using her as a kind of kindred spirit to spur her along. So I did some more research beyond Wikipedia, and I found out that she wasn't Jewish, she was just German. So this set us back a little bit. But on the plus side, it did restore my faith in some cultural stereotypes about Jews and sport. Then my mum saw this and she said, look, do I really have to do this to be a hero? Is it not enough that I've spent my whole life trying to bring a lovely but very difficult family together? And I'm here anytime you need me. And I said, yes, that is enough. But it's not going to get you on Newsnight, and you certainly won't get a ticker tape parade. And she said that was fine, and would I leave her alone, and she was happy. But could she please keep the wetsuit? She knows all the things that are in that cabinet, and how to bleed that radiator, and not to let my father go out of the house looking like that. She knows how to get fat stains out of clothing, and how and when to visit lonely relatives, and how to protect people from themselves. Because you can be 5'10" and 10 stone and set a world record, or you can be 4'10 and a half and 7 stone and quietly be getting on with things in West London. But when it comes down to it, 2/3 of all of us will evaporate when exposed to very high temperatures.